Welcome back to PsychVids. Today we are focusing on flow state. We're going to unpack the fascinating science behind what psychologists often call the optimal human experience. If you want to understand how to reliably tap into your brain's absolute highest gears for creativity, performance, and just general everyday well-being, well, this explainer is built exactly for you. And trust me, the mechanics of how our brains actually achieve this peak state, they're way more surprising than what the internet productivity gurus usually claim.
So think back to a very specific moment in your life. Have you ever looked up from your desk and realized hours literally just vanished while you were completely locked into coding a new project? Or maybe you were cooking a really complex meal under pressure, or playing an instrument, and suddenly, boom, 3 hours have passed. Your coffee is ice cold, you completely forgot to eat, and yet that intense cognitive effort felt incredibly effortless. What actually just happened in your brain right there? That is the deeply fascinating mental phenomenon we're unpacking today.
Here's our roadmap. We're going to cover exactly what flow state is, the formula to achieve it, what your brain is doing behind the scenes, the often ignored dark side of this concept, and finally, how you can actually trigger it. We're going to break down the hard science, bust some widespread myths, and give you actionable steps.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. What is flow state? Let's define the zone and move far beyond the typical buzzwords.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at its origin story in the 1970s with the Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Now, he didn't just study office workers sitting at desks. He systematically interviewed artists, chess players, and rock climbers, basically people who consistently sought out deep enjoyment in highly challenging activities. And when he asked them to describe how it felt when they were performing at their absolute best, they didn't talk about grinding or forcing it. No, they frequently described their experience as feeling like they were being seamlessly carried by a current. The activity itself literally became the reward.
Let's look a little closer at the core features that define this state. True flow is not just about forcing effortful productivity or gritting your teeth through some grueling task. It is an intrinsically rewarding state, what psychologists call an autotelic experience, where your actions and your awareness completely merge into one. You develop this intense, laser-like focus on the present moment, which results in a totally distorted sense of time. But perhaps the most profound feature is the complete loss of self-consciousness. Your inner critic just shuts off entirely. It's the exact opposite of trying hard. It's a state where effortless, peak performance just naturally happens because you are completely absorbed in the now.
Moving right along to Section 2, the flow formula, and how you can engineer the state. Because flow isn't just random luck.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that flow lives in a very specific Goldilocks zone. It only occurs when the challenge perfectly meets your current skill capacity. Think about it. If you tackle a task where your skill is low, but the challenge is super high, you just get massive anxiety and overwhelm, right? On the flip side, if your skill is high, but the challenge is low, you just get bored and apathetic. Flow lives right at the bleeding edge of your ability. Research suggests the absolute sweet spot is tackling a task that is roughly 4 to 5% beyond your current skill level. It has to stretch you just enough to require your full attention, but not so much that you snap.
Beyond balancing challenge and skill, there are specific, non-negotiable triggers required to hit that optimal flow channel. First, you need clear, explicit goals so you know exactly what success looks like moment to moment. Ambiguity is the ultimate flow killer because your brain burns energy trying to figure out what to do next rather than just doing it. Second, you need immediate feedback loops so you can instantly adjust if you're slightly off track. Third is a real sense of autonomy and control over the task itself. And fourth, deep concentration on the present without any intrusive thoughts. If an activity is vague, heavily micromanaged, or just constantly interrupted, entering flow is biologically impossible.
Let's shift gears to part 3, your brain in flow. We really need to explore the neuroscience here.
Counter to popular belief, your brain isn't actually firing on all cylinders during flow. It's doing something much more efficient. There's this fascinating concept called transient hypofrontality, which is a hypothesis put forward by researcher Arne Dietrich. Transient simply means temporary, and hypofrontality refers to a downregulation of your prefrontal cortex, that highly evolved region of your brain responsible for complex decision-making, your inner critic, your self-monitoring, and your time tracking. It actually quiets down. Your brain's nagging inner critic is literally locked out of the control room, and this is precisely why your ego and self-consciousness temporarily vanish, allowing you to operate on pure, fluid intuition.
You've probably also heard of the neurochemical flow cocktail. We're talking about a speculative surge of powerful neurochemicals, dopamine for sharp focus, norepinephrine for heightened alertness, plus a mix of endorphins, anandamide and serotonin to make you feel incredible and laterally connect ideas. It sounds like a real-life limitless pill, right? But it is highly important to model scientific skepticism here. This exact combination is a deeply interesting hypothesis popularized by productivity groups, but it's not yet settled scientific consensus. We have to separate the real, measurable psychology of peak performance from internet hype. The brain is incredibly complex, and we're honestly still mapping exactly how these chemicals interact during peak states.
So the crucial point is, we need to look at Section 4, the dark side of flow. It's time to bust some myths.
First off, we need to clearly distinguish true psychological flow from hyperfocus. While they might look kind of similar from the outside, hyperfocus, which is often seen in neurodivergent profiles like ADHD, can involuntarily lock you onto a non-productive task, making it incredibly difficult to shift your attention away, even when you really want to. Flow, on the other hand, is a controlled, goal-oriented state. You maintain a flexible awareness of the task at hand and can actually transition out of it without feeling stuck or completely dysregulated. Understanding this nuance is just absolutely vital for managing how human attention actually operates.
Because flow is intrinsically rewarding and feels so incredibly good, it can actually lead to compulsive behaviors. The exact same absorption mechanics can lead you to lose hours to a brightly colored slot machine-style app on your phone, push dangerously past a physical injury in extreme sports, or just completely neglect your real-world responsibilities and relationships. Furthermore, there's a huge issue right now with corporate burnout. Treating employees like they're just flow machines ignores the biological reality that flow is incredibly energy-intensive. It demands a massive cognitive toll, and without deep, deliberate recovery, chasing continuous flow will eventually shatter your nervous system.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, how to trigger flow. Let's look at the practical takeaways. Think about the number 20 for a second. In modern knowledge work, 20 represents a massive penalty. A single ping on your phone, an unread email badge, or a tap on the shoulder boots you completely out of a pre-flow state. And the research shows it will cost you up to 20 minutes of focus just to claw your way back to that exact same level of deep engagement. Modern workspaces, with their constant notifications, are basically flow hostile by design. Flow is incredibly fragile to interruption, which means protecting your attention is step one. And this brilliantly illustrates our highly actionable 3-step checklist to engineer flow in your everyday routines. Step 1. Ruthlessly eliminate micro-distractions before you even start. Put the phone in another room, use a single browser tab, just reduce all switching costs. Step 2. Set a specific micro-goal. Don't sit down with a vague goal to write a book. Sit down to write the first 300 words of Chapter 2. Building in that tight, clear feedback loop gives your brain an immediate target. Step 3. Deliberately calibrate the task difficulty. This is where most people fail. If you're bored, you need to restrict your tools, shorten your deadline, or speed up to increase the challenge. If you're anxious, you need to break the problem down into much smaller, manageable chunks until it perfectly matches your current skill level.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. What is one activity in your life that already has all the flow conditions, the clear goals, the immediate feedback, the right balance of challenge, and are you actually doing enough of it? Flow isn't just about grinding out more output for your boss. It's about deeply engaging in the things that make your life genuinely meaningful. Think about how you can intentionally design your environment for flow this week rather than just waiting for it to randomly happen. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.